So we have this function here, or this block of code here executing only if the player chooses the buy money choice. All right. So now I need to make a clarification on something that I was talking about earlier, which is this little model that we were playing around with. Okay. The player leader stats folder, or like this information, is actually not stored on the client. Okay, I made a mistake. It's actually stored on the server, but it's not stored on the data store service. Okay, it's a it looks like this. Okay, so the player's leader stats information is stored on the server, but when you end the game, this leader stats information disappears. It's gone. It's not saved, right? It's not saved for the next game or the next following game. The only way to save things for a following game when a player leaves is by taking this information and saving it into a personalized folder in data store services for your game, for the particular player, with the same variables that you have here in leader stats. And so the same dynamic work, what I was talking about, how I was talking about before, it's just that the player's leader stats values are stored on the server. So that's a clarification that I need to make. Okay, now why is that important? It's important because when we program the check dialog function here, right? The only way to program this is by programming it in a local script inside of starter player scripts. Okay, inside of starter player scripts. It's a local script, which means it runs here on the client. Okay, the client does not. It runs on the person's home computer, right? It runs on the computer that's in front of you. So there's no connection between this client and the server. And what we need to do is check if dialog is selected, then make changes to leader stats. Right? So I need to say, okay, if it's selected, then I need this to be set to 0, and I need this to be set to a higher number. Okay, I need to make changes here in leader stats, in the player's leader stats, but the player's leader stats is in the server. Okay, so what we need is we need an in-between. We need the client to send a signal to the server so that the server can run a script, run a piece of code that will do what we want it to do. Because the client cannot do it. A local script cannot do it. Okay? And the way that we do that is we program an event. And what is an event? Well, it's something that the client can fire, right? So the client you can create an event, like let's say a buy money event. And the client can fire it off if the dialog is selected, right? So it's going to come over to here. It's going to fire this event. Now, on this event, on the server, we can cause the server to run a block of code, a script, if this event is fired. Okay, so on the server, we're going to have a listening event that's listening, and checking to see if this buy money event is fired by the client. And if it is fired by the client, then it's going to run a block of code. Okay, so that's like what we need to do here. So first thing first is we're going to create this buy money event. And the place that you create it, and the only place that you create it, is here in replicated storage. So we'll right click that, insert object. Where is it? Remote event. I am going to rename this to be buy money remote event. Okay. And now that we have that, what we can do is create our server script, and our server script is going to be saved right in here, server script service. Right click that, insert object, script. Let's rename this to buy money script. Okay. And inside of the buy money script, what we need to do is say local rep storage. Let me go ahead and just copy and paste it in here. Okay, and so what this is doing is it's saying, okay, I'm getting my replicated storage service, saving it here in rep storage. then in my rep storage service, I'm going to get this event. Okay. Now the event that I'm going to get, I'm going to change this by money event, capital M. Okay. Lowercase and capital matters, right? We call it case sensitive. So by money event script. Oh, I'm sorry. By money of remote event. Okay. And we're going to save that here in remote. And then what this is doing is saying, okay, for that remote event, for this guy here, I'm going to wait and listen. And if it's ever fired, then I'm going to run this function. Okay. And what is this function doing? It automatically takes the player. Okay. And we're saying, okay, for the player's leader stats money.value, I'm going to make it equal to the previous money.value, what it was before, plus the number of nuggets that they have in leader stats times some number. And the number that I have is $2.50 per nugget. Okay. Oh, and I don't have mine called nuggets. Mine is actually called gold ore. So I'm going to change that. Let's double check. Is it gold ore? Yes, gold ore. So let's come over here, gold ore. And then after I do that, right, after I change my money to be a higher number with the gold, that's the old value, what it was before, plus how many gold ore I have times $2.50, then I'm going to go ahead and set my player's gold ore to 0. Okay, like I'm making that whole transaction. Okay, and of course this only happens if the remote event is fired, if this is fired. Okay, and now we need to get it to fire. So let's go ahead and go back to buy money local script, and let's fire it off here. Okay, instead of printing buying money. And so how are we going to fire it off? Well, we need to have those same variables. So let's go ahead and grab this stuff, copy it, come back over here and paste it in. Okay, and then in here, instead of buying money, we're going to we're going to remote fire server. Okay, so what is this doing? It's saying, okay, that buy money event that's stored in remote, we're going to fire it. Okay, so how does this all work? The player comes in, talks to the bartender, eventually chooses buy money choice. This script over here is waiting, right? And it's waiting for if the buy money choice has been selected. And if it has been selected, well, that remote event that we just made, the buy money remote event, we're firing it. Okay. So then it's going to come over to here, fire this money event, which this script that's on the server is waiting for. See this one? This one's waiting for it. It's saying, okay, I'm waiting for this event to fire. And when this event does fire, I'm going to run this script. Okay. And it's going to go ahead and make those changes here. When the player leaves the game, it's going to go ahead and grab that data and save it in the player's folder in data store services so that we can go ahead and continue where we left off. And so, yeah, again, this is very confusing, right? But just understand it's the only way to do it. Okay, it's the only way to have an action occur on the server if the player chooses a specific dialogue with one of the NPCs. So it's confusing because it's the first time you're doing it, and it's a complicated process. It's like a 3-step process, right? First you got to check if the dialogue's selected, then you need to fire off the event, and then you need to run code on the server if that event is fired. But it's the only way to do it, and we're going to do it many times in our game. Okay, we're going to be doing this for the banker. We're going to be doing this for the store. We're going to be doing this for the stable, right? We're going to be doing this for the train. Okay, so this same process. Again, we're going to become more familiar with it as we do it over and over and over again.